You want to talk about the business model in the future? So you have basically this YouTube business.
Yep.
And that goal is essentially just maximize growth.
Yeah, just make content people want and get as many views as possible.
And then, as J-Cal said, build distribution and direct it at these old legacy companies. Are there things, but you said you wanted to do things that were just like, it seemed less offline, right? So I'm sure you looked at online things.
Yeah, I mean, right now, it's just like, the reason we started with chocolate is obviously like, in the last 50 years, there hasn't been any like major chocolate company that has spawned up, like Hershey's, Lindt, Mars, Farro, they're all like 100 years old, and so it's kind of just a sleepy space where they don't really innovate, and it's kind of boring, and no one really cares, and so obviously eventually we'll do online, because it's much easier to get people to download an app than buy a physical product, but it's just kind of perfect, because the shelf space never changed, and people want something new, and so, you know, it was easy to take over, you know.
How big is that? How big is that business for you, can you say?
This is our second year. We'll do a couple $100 million.
Wow. Okay, wait, so we just guessed about the math here. You said 1 billion views a month at $5 CPM, so it's 5 million a month for the video, so 60 million a year. And the chocolate bars will do 200?
I mean, we're not really public about it, but it'll do a lot of revenue.
Did I figure it out?
They'll do something, more than a penny.
What do you think about the success of Prime? You know, how do you look at that? Is that
they're killing it. I mean, yeah, that's a great case study. It's just, you know,
I heard
you never, like 2 years ago,
you revenue, right?
Yeah,
like,
well, yeah. I don't know about that, but or at least I can't say publicly. But I can say, like, you never would have thought, like, you know, tens of millions of kids, or at least millions of kids, would be so enthusiastic about a sports drink. You know what I mean? It's crazy the kind of demand they've created. Like, kids literally collect Prime bottles, and then TikToks go viral showing off their collection of drink bottles that are like $3 or whatever.
Raise your hand if you got kids that do that.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, so Prime was great because obviously it's a beverage, and the more shelf space you get, just naturally the more sales. But it was more a lifestyle brand they created, where just kids felt cool drinking it, and to the point where they would buy a 12-pack for like $15 and then sell them for like $6, you know, a bottle at their school, which is like something that happens in almost every school in America. It's crazy, still to this day after like a year and a half.
One of the things that I think, if you taste Prime, that it has is a ton of sucralose, right? So it tastes super like bam, big mouthfeel. Where's your thinking on like the line between nutrition versus just taste good for the products you have and the products you want to build?
Yeah.
And where do you want to take that?
Agreed. I think that's very important. That's why our chocolate, we only use 4 ingredients, whereas Hershey's uses 9, because obviously, since we have this much influence, we don't want to just, you know, make people... whatever we sell needs to be better than what's currently on the shelf, or then it's just a net negative, you know what I mean? Better for you, higher quality ingredients, etc. So, yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, that's kind of how I view it.
And so what are these other areas, and that just make maybe obvious sense if you could snap your fingers and just...
Yeah, well, I think the simplest thing, the more I've like studied chocolate and see it, like we started with, well, funny enough, we started selling dark chocolate, which 65% of kids in America don't even like. So that was kind of dumb, but I didn't know any better. So, I mean, the simplest thing is do milk chocolate, which is what we're getting into, and, you know, then just going down and maximizing chocolate, like doing Reese's cups and that kind of stuff. So past chocolate, I haven't really thought about it, because that's basically all I'm thinking about for next year.
Okay.
Do you think the candy business can be a $1 billion revenue business?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, look at Hershey's. What are they doing? $12 billion a year. Mars, tens of billions. I mean, in America alone, I think people spend $25 billion a year on chocolate.
And there's no one in those companies building a MrBeast competitor.
I mean,
from a brand,
there's no one in those companies that build the companies. They're like 100 years old.
Yeah.
So.
They're all dead.
But yeah.
How do you must have a ton of inbound to do things outside of the MrBeast realm, Hollywood, et cetera.
Yep.
How do you sort through all the inbound opportunities and then organize? Because you could, I would suspect, be drowning in opportunity at this point with this level of notoriety.
Well, that's why we are where we are, is because we just laser focus on one thing for essentially my entire life. And so it's pretty easy. I just say no. You know,
everything.
And then, yeah, because it's like, you know, obviously, to make the videos at the caliber we need, it's just like, that's been my obsession for the last 14 years, almost every waking hour of the day, just, you know, obsessing over, you know, every little thing. Like, if Even simple things like when you click on a video, the brightness in the video matters. Like if it's a little too dark, people are more apt to click off and not watch it, because not everyone has their phone screen brightness
You
turned
did
up.
something with your mouth being open or closed in the thumbnail, and it changed click-throughs.
That was a new A/B test. Well, the problem is whatever I do, a bunch of other people do, and I started opening my mouth in my thumbnails, and it's kind of annoying. And then a bunch of other creators did it, and I was like, okay, we're not doing this anymore. So I switched them back.
What's
so
the
everyone else will
budget?
switch them back.
What's the budget on each video now? So every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
how much money goes into that video?
I think right now it's around $2.5 million per video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's like making an independent film every 2 weeks.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think it's that crazy though, because they're getting like 100 million views in 7 days. So if anything, any other like medium outside of social media that got that kind of viewership, their budget would be like 50x. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you think that you're building a library? Like, do you expect that a video that you created, the Olympic Games thing you did a few weeks ago, in 5 years, that'll still be, that'll have some value 15 years from now?
Well, 15, I don't know, but 5, yes. Usually, whenever we upload a piece of content, it'll get a couple million views a month for, as of right now, forever. But obviously, eventually, it'll probably die off. But they're usually pretty evergreen because right now, because we have the model where we're making money outside of YouTube so I can spend more, it's like you have this video that's $2.5 million budget or like another video that's $2,500 budget. And so right now, usually people end up just clicking on the cooler stuff.
And then how do you think about just the axis of going outside the United States? So different languages, different countries. How do you deal with that?
Well, that's the best part. So, I mean, as you know, we hired voice actors to dub our videos in every language. And I assume a lot of you guys here are content creators. And the crazy part is only 10% of the world speaks English. So if your content's only in English, it's pretty hard to obviously reach most of the world. Even subtitles, most people don't prefer it. So if you dub your videos, hire voice actors or whatever, your viewership will skyrocket. And so right now, over half the people that watch my videos don't even speak English, which is pretty crazy.
Tell me about the relationship with YouTube and how that's evolved over the years, because I don't know they anticipated that, the footprint of the top creators on YouTube would get so large.
Yeah.
Are they deeply involved in communicating with you, or are they just like, hey, we're a platform, post a video if you like it?
It's that, yeah.
That's extraordinary to me.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like it because then no one can say there's favoritism or they're helping us in any way. But agreed, like even when I was coming up, like, people were getting 10 million views a video, and that was like mind-blowing. And their life cycle would be like a year, and they'd fall off. So it's kind of crazy. I don't really know how we ended up getting this big.
Was there ever a thought to tell them I need to make, a higher minimum per RPM, and I'd like to cut a deal with you to hit these numbers and be treated differently?
They'd be like, well, then everyone's going to want that. Because if they do it with me, then they would open the floodgates. They would just tell me, spend less money. So,
Got it.
yeah.
Interesting.
Because no one's forcing me to spend this much money. It's kind of the problem. Technically, most people don't spend hardly any money.
I mean, but there was a moment in time where Microsoft started stealing away some YouTubers and folks for their Twitch competitor. Did you get those kind of offers, and then how did you evaluate them?
Well, the problem is, like I said at the start, YouTube's where all the viewers are. So it's like, sure, you can get a little bit of money, but ultimately the real game is if you can get 1 billion views a month for 10 years, then whatever, the amount of brands we could build is, insane.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it is the great success of YouTube that they've hit this level of scale.
Exactly, and the features and stuff on that, like YouTube is the only platform right now where you can upload a video in different languages. So if someone clicks my video in Mexico, I'll speak Spanish, whereas if you click it in America, I'll speak
That
English.
feature is in beta right now.
Yeah, well, they've rolled it out to other people, but on TikTok, Facebook, no other platform can you do that. So YouTube's the only place right now where you can actually have a global audience.
Do you provide the voiceover person, or is that done
Yes,
automatically?
yeah.
Because they're working on an automatic version, I was told.
Yeah, for the first or the next 2 years, it'll probably sound terrible. But of course, at some time in the near future, AI dubbing will,
We get hit up about that all the time for the All In podcast.
Right now, I've trained a ton of different voice models. They all sound terrible. But it is, obviously getting better very
Have you
quickly.
published any to see what the viewership looks like?
Yeah, AI me versus like real voice actors.
Yeah.
We have, and it's usually like, so if it's a 1 minute video and the retention with normal voice actors 45 seconds, it'll be like 42. But it'll also be a lot of comments like, why does he sound slightly off? So the retention isn't as bad as you would think, but it's still like,
You can tell the quality score's lower.
yeah, exactly. Like if the thing is, like, when you're using dubs, you're already at a disadvantage because they can choose to watch someone in their native language or watch you with a guy speaking over your lips. And so if it's not as good as, like, you're already down here a little bit worse, and then if you use AI dubbing, it's even worse. Like, so